Hey planners, it's Tay of ShawntePlans and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we'll be taking a flip through of my September spreads. It is the 30th of September, the last day of the month as I am filming this, and I thought it'd be fun to just kind of go back, flip through, take a look at the spreads and go over like my inspiration, my process, and kind of what goes into my planning style, as it were. And so first up, of course, we have the dashboard, which is the first page we come to in the September section of my planner. And so I've really gotten into doing these dashboard spreads, and this one was, I mean, easily my favorite of all the ones I've done so far. The detailing with these mandalas from Honey Inked just really gave this spread something just so incredible and so visually engaging. I loved the colors. It was really fun sort of transitioning into the more bolder, deeper toned colors because this was going to be the first one for fall. And I remember thinking about that when I was going into my September spread and thinking, wow, just realizing this, like, you have September, October, and November, and then December is like Christmas themed, and I've gotten so into collecting these deco sheets from the Sweet Planner, and I realized I had bought like a bunch of like fall themed ones. And initially I think I was thinking, because technically the start of fall is until like the last week of September, and I was thinking, well, maybe I might do one more summer themed or like transitional or neutral themed spread for my September dashboard. And I realized, well, if you do that, you realize that means you only have two fall themed ones for October and November. And I was like, oh god, no, I definitely want to take advantage of that and start off with like my fall dashboards for September. So that was definitely the thought process that went into that, and I was so glad I did. I loved this so much. The colors are just amazing. Next we have the monthly spread, and this was like my best monthly spread for me that I've done so far. And it's been really interesting because I initially started doing monthlies this year trying to do the highlights style, and for me it just never came naturally. I filmed one of them, my May one, never filmed the June or July one, and it was just because it was not fun for me. I really did not enjoy doing the highlight style of monthly planning. And I filmed this in one of our Plans Change live episodes. Plans Change is the IGTV live show that I do with Rachel of Gathered Plans. And if you haven't checked those out and you're not on Instagram, we do them weekly on Sundays on Instagram, and they are a lot of fun, so you can check that out if you're interested. But that's what I'm referring to when I say Plans Change is our IGTV live show. And so this was really a lot of fun to plan out, and I enjoyed going through the process. And I did this completely without a kit because I had gotten to the point where I was so frustrated with doing planner spreads, that monthly spreads for my planner, that I just did not buy a September kit. Decided to just pull in some things that I had from my stash. I'm so obsessed with this washi tape. Again, pulled in another deco sheet from the Sweet Planner, and actually not even like a new one. These florals are all from like a leftover deco sheet that I had. I just figured, you know what? I've got tons of leftovers and stuff in my stash. I should be able to pull together a decent spread, and it came out way better than I possibly could have imagined, especially this particular layering piece. And I did like an IG story where I shared talking about this particular layering, because this one blew me away. Of all the layering, and it's been really interesting sort of getting into this whole layering thing, because I feel like it was a term that I certainly didn't coin, but I remember like when people really started talking about the whole layering thing, and it's something I feel like I do very naturally, but I never thought about it in that terms until I heard people start using the term more regularly. And that was when I realized, oh yeah, layering is something I really do like. It adds so much dimension and visual interest to the spread. And I remember when I was trying to do all of this, I remember liking this particular fashion girl and her outfit, which helped me decide on the colors of the florals I wanted to pull in. And then I started picking out my washi tape, and I found headers. Deciding what foil color I want to use is always a very big factor in picking out anything that I'm going to be using on the page, and I try to alternate. It is really interesting because I don't know why it is that it's so necessary, because sometimes it's just not going to happen. Sometimes I'm going to have spreads where I've got like gold back to back, and it's just like one of those things where I just have to deal with it. But as much as I can, I do try to alternate between the classic 3, gold, silver, and rose gold, so that they're not just consistently doing the same color of foil back to back from week to week, because it helps keep me interested and engaged with my planning. And I think that's a lot of what I take into consideration when I'm sitting down to do planner spreads and thinking about what inspires me and what keeps me engaged in this hobby. And that's having a lot of variety and things that change in some way. To certain degrees, there's only so many things you can do when you're putting stickers on the page. But as much as I can have sort of variety either in the styles of kit I'm using, the color of the foil, the details and embellishments and elements that I'm pulling in that are different from week to week, as much as I can do something that sort of shifts me out of just doing the exact same thing I did the week before, that keeps me engaged and excited about this hobby. Going into our first weekly spread. So this was a peach palm kit, and I really enjoyed using this. I love the ombre detail on this kit, and it's just gorgeous. And it was one of those just like design details. This was my second time using a kit from Peach Palm, and I really love the way that her kits are formatted, but it's her eye for design and the way that she sort of selects, crops her images, the amount of details that go into the full boxes. And then she had these full boxes that just had a lot of just sort of, I wouldn't call it dead space, but just negative space. And so you have something like this particular full box here on Tuesday, where you've got this main focal point, tons of negative space around it, and then you have like a full box like this one where you've got so much happening, very dynamic. You've got the laptop, the notebook, the pen, the desk. There's just so much happening visually there. It's cut to this particular full box where it's just this focal point, and sometimes I can feel a little uninspired with full boxes like that. And so I remember going into planning this spread and looking at it and initially thinking I wasn't going to use that full box. And my initial thought was, that's definitely the one I'm going to omit. There are usually 9 full boxes in a kit, and so usually one gets left out anyways. And I remember like right off the bat thinking, that's definitely going to be the one I'm not going to use. And so when I did start actually planning with it, and it was in making the decision to add the lace trim stickers that I did shift and change my mind, because I realized, by layering that detail on top of there, and you definitely with the 2 boxes where I have the lace stickers sort of introverted in on the box. So I do have them where they're trimming and sort of framing the box, and it's on the full boxes that have a lot more happening visually, and on the ones that are a little bit more of the focal point ones, I was able to have the lace inverted on itself, and it added an interesting visual detail without being too distracting from what was already happening in the image of the full boxes. Apparently something that matters to me. It may not matter to anyone else, but it definitely was something that visually I thought was very interesting and engaging. I also had so much fun pulling in the details with these flourishes. It's really interesting trying to pick and choose what kind of flourishes and flowers and embellishments I want to use from week to week, because again, those are the types of elements that I try to alternate as much as possible, because it keeps things interesting for me. Moving into the second spread of the month, and this was a Harriet Wright Designs kit, and this was an interesting spread for me, and I feel like I said it when I was doing the plan with me for this video, and it's the discussion I was having about my sidebar. When I'm laying down my base for my spreads, it always consists of my bottom washi, date covers, and my sidebar. That's sort of my foundation for what the rest of the spread is going to be. And a lot of times I feel like if I can get my sidebar right, I'm in my zone, I'm inspired, and I can sort of start seeing what the rest of the spread is going to look like. And sometimes I know it, I'm like in my zone. I know exactly what I want the sidebar to look like. Other times I get started and it comes to me as I'm putting down stickers, and then sometimes it's just a complete fail. And this was just one of those where I felt like the balance was off. I don't like what happened up at the top with the month and the layering elements there going into the full box. And I'm very conscious of the way the different elements in a kit sort of hold different weights. And I'm gonna try to explain what I mean by that. Where it's like, I feel like full boxes, half boxes, those are things that are very blocky elements of a kit, and they're very important structurally for our kits because it helps give it its framework, and it's sort of like the bones of what you're doing, and helps give it really good structure. And then you add in things that have more curved lines or floral elements, or things that are, you know, this shape essentially, even though it's a floral, it's essentially more like a circle type element, or a flourish that's got tons of visual movement. And those types of elements really sort of add that layer on top of the structure that makes the spread dynamic. And to me, the sidebar on this just falls so flat, so blocky, and it doesn't give me at all what I was looking for in terms of balance. And I really wish I had taken one of these floral elements and used it at the top for the month, and I think that would have helped to give it so much more balance. And then possibly even just rearrange this a bit. I think even if I had taken the quote box, put it down at the bottom, and shifted maybe where I had my habit trackers, and just sort of break this up, because you've got these two large block elements and then a repetitive of 3 quarter box style. It just, to me, the weight is off in the way that the whole distribution of that is just nags me to no end. On the plus side, though, there were just some things I absolutely loved about this kit, and I've already mentioned the florals, which was so interesting because that actually was a freebie that came with an order from the Sweet Planner. And I remember thinking, it's such a unique floral element because it's like a floral arrangement in a bouquet, and atypical to the usual types of florals that I purchase and use from the Sweet Planner all the time. Because it was like the flowers in an arrangement. And I remember thinking when I got it that it's probably not something I'm going to be able to get a lot of use out of, because I wasn't immediately inspired until I sat down. I had this kit, it matched perfectly, and I started going, I think there's a lot of potential here for these florals. And my first thought was, oh, this would be really cute layered under your day off script for Monday. And then it just started pulling it in more and more throughout the spread, and it just kept working. And I love when things like that happen because, again, sometimes you like go into a spread and you have an idea of what you want and have an idea of how things are going to go. And then other times you get these amazing surprises, and that is just something that makes planning itself really exciting, because those are the moments that make the experience something that's just really enjoyable and keeps me coming back to this hobby, because I love surprising myself with things that I didn't think of, but put it on the page and it just works. One thing I did know I wanted to do, and again, this was another kit that had some really amazing negative space. You've got this amazing focal point of this flower arrangement in the bottom corner of this full box, and it had all of this fantastic negative space. And I remember looking at it and going, wouldn't it be cute to like add in a butterfly and make it look like it's, you know, getting ready to land on the flower? And so I had these butterflies from Honey Inked, and then I had even these little stars, which were from a freebie from Honey Inked, and layering those on top of the full box. And I did the same thing here. And this one was really interesting because this one had a lot more happening, even though there wasn't any specific focal point on this particular full box. It also presented the same opportunity, even with all of the confetti and the foil that was already happening on the box. It was sort of framing around the exterior of the box, and so it left a lot of open space in the center. And I thought, you know what, it's just a really fantastic opportunity to add in those butterfly elements. And so when I was planning out where I wanted to place my full boxes on the page, the first thing I knew was I definitely wanted those 2 boxes on different sides of the page, because I knew I wanted to bring in those butterfly elements, and I didn't want both of them on one side of the page or the other, so that it would be balanced. And I was repeating that same technique on both sides of the page to give it some balance. And so I love the way that came out, and it just was a way of infusing my personality into the spread, and it made me really happy. And so despite the fact that I have regrets and things I would absolutely love to change, just one part of this spread, like the rest of it just makes me so happy, and looking at it, which is one of the things that I really enjoy doing. I typically have my planner open on my desk with me throughout the day. It's just, you know, sitting off to the side on my desk as I'm working throughout the day, and I can just look over at it and enjoy the stickers, enjoy looking at the colors, and it's just pretty. And that's the thing that I really enjoy about my planner. It's just visually something I enjoy looking at. On to the third spread of the month, which this is a kit from By Thaowie. This is the Enjoy the Little Things kit, and I have to say, I feel like this was sort of the quintessential end of summer, getting ready to transition into fall kit, and I feel that I definitely wasn't the only person who felt that way, from the standpoint that I think a week before, the week of, and the week after I used this kit, I saw several other planners using the same exact kit, and I think it was because we were all feeling the same way when we saw this kit, that it just had very late summer vibes, and it was a really nice transition into fall type of kit, and it just presented just such an amazing opportunity. I love the colors and the tones of this, because you've got this very sort of neutral, peachy, earth toned type colored kit with all of the beiges, the peaches, and it's a very, very, very subtle color palette. But then you also have this just gorgeous rich greens and this vibrant pop of yellow, which just, oh God, that vibrant pop of yellow just made this kit for me. I loved those little touches. Just with the color details, so visually engaging. And this was definitely one where, like, from what I was saying and how I felt about my sidebar from the previous week going into this week, like the moment I got my foundation down, I just knew this was going to be a spread I was going to fall in love with. I loved the deco and the way I did the month at the top. I loved this little element here and marking the weeks, that little notepad, which it just was so cute, and the way that layering came together. Loved the lace detail. It helped add the right amount of balance, and it doesn't feel off weight to me, and I think this large block piece at the bottom really helps anchor it, and I love that it sort of matches up with the bottom washi, which I don't always feel like it's necessary to have the extended bottom washi to anchor a sidebar, but it certainly did exactly what I was wanting it to do for this particular spread, and I love the way my sidebar came together on this one, and that's always an encouraging feeling for me, going into a spread and just knowing this is coming together exactly how I wanted it to, and like from that moment, like I had my bottom washi, my date covers, and my sidebar down, and I was like, you're gonna love this spread, Shawnte. This is gonna be one of your favorites, and that's always a really encouraging, exciting feeling for me, because then I'm just like, okay, now I just want to start putting more and more stickers down. And planning with this week, it definitely was. The other thing that was really exciting for me this week, these flourishes, and I remember putting this one down. I'd been wanting to use this flourish, and this one's from Alyssa's Craft Shop, and every time I went to put it on the page, I did not like it, and I would put it down and I lifted it right back up, and the only thing I did different with it this week was I flipped the flourish upside down. I had been putting it on the page the other way, which is how it comes on the sheet. So when you actually get it on the sheet, let me pull out one so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So the way it comes on the page, you know, it's oriented in the other direction. And every time I put it on the page like this, as cute as this is, because visually, even looking at it, you know, on the sticker sheet, I look at it and I like it, but I put it in my planner, and every single time I'd lift it right back up. It just wasn't working for me. And then all I did was just flip it upside down, put it on the page, and I fell in love with it. And it is a very interesting thing, because sometimes just doing something as subtle as looking at a sticker from a different angle, flipping it around, and it just sort of trying something a different way can totally change how it's interpreted on the page and what it does visually for the spread, which is one of the things I love about planning. Definitely one of the other tricky elements that I was trying to pull into this spread and trying to find balance for, and it was these, I always call these types of boxes little fancy boxes, and this one's not a little one, it's a kind of a big fancy box, but it's super difficult to figure out how to work with. And I remember putting it down on the page, and the first one, because I put one down, and it's totally edited out of the video, so I didn't bore you guys with it. But I put it down on the page, had to lift it up, because I initially put it down on the page and like layered it over a washi strip, and immediately realized that with the intricacy of the shape of the box, plus the already added in detail of the floral embellishment around it, you just really have to just stop. You can't overload that box, or at least I couldn't for my personal style. And I definitely want to emphasize that, because one of the things that I'm very clear on, no matter what I'm talking about or discussing in my planner style is my own, and it's not a judgment or a criticism of anyone else's planner style. And not everyone is a white space planner. Not everyone plans the same way that I do. Not everyone wants their planner to look the way that my planner does. And that is exactly right. It shouldn't. Everyone's planner should look the way they want it to. It should be an expression of themselves on the page. And so everything I'm saying about how I format my planner, things that I feel like give it balance, things that I like, and different things that for me work structurally, are simply just my expression of what I want to see on my planner page. And I hope it's coming across that way and doesn't come across as me saying that this is the way to plan. There is no the way to plan. The way that you plan in your planner is the right way to plan. And I feel that that's true for every single planner. So I just wanted to throw that little disclaimer in there so that we're clear on that, because I love the variety that I see in the planner community. I love self-expression and seeing it on the page, and I think it's one of the things that makes the planner community better. So, all right, stepping off my soapbox, back to what I was saying. For this, so for me, it was just it was doing way too much, and I realized, okay, you can't layer washi on this. Don't you dare try to put another icon on it. And I felt like even with putting the script on there to just to clarify that what I was writing in there was for work, it didn't bother me, and I felt like, okay, it's subtle, it's to the point, and I love the fact that it was rose gold, so it worked with what was happening here, because everything in this space was just white and rose gold foil. And so it was just like, okay, leave that. Make sure everything else around it is just the white background on the page, and it's just very clean and nothing's fighting it, because it's definitely a focal point and it's going to grab your attention. And so it was really interesting working with that place. And then this one, I had so much fun with this. This was very unique because I think my initial thought with seeing these boxes is they definitely felt like something that was easy, to write on, to use as a substitute for bringing in either a half box or quarter box of something of some sort to mark what I was going to use for the day, which is definitely what I did here with this one and this one as well. Very fun to write on them, but I loved using it as just a background decorative element and layering it under an icon. So much fun. This was another, oh gosh, I loved that floral element. I was really wanting to do something where I'd had florals not only coming from like the top or just the bottom of a box, but just really coming from both directions at the same time. And when I started putting it down on the page, it just worked. And I love moments like that when you start layering and things just work out the way you have them in your head, which is not always the case. This was a layering element where I started layering, and what I saw in my head and what ended up on the page was not the same. And so but that's part of the process, if you don't try it, if you don't take a step out there, if you don't ever take a risk, you're not going to know what works, what doesn't, what you like and what you don't. And it's like, okay, it may not be perfect. It obviously wasn't hideous enough for me to take it up because it's still on the page, but it's definitely something that, was a learning situation, and going forward was something I wasn't planning to do again. What was interesting to me when I got to the second half of the page was this little quartet here with these lace trim stickers, because that was not planned. And sometimes I do things that are specifically planned, whereas like having the full boxes here and having these two full boxes trimmed with the lace stickers, I knew I wanted that element repeated on Wednesday and Thursday. Header, full box, lace trim sticker. When I put down both of these boxes, what I realized was I had 3 lace trim stickers that were almost lined up in a row and were so close together, and alternating what's happening from column to column is something that I'm typically very big on. And so when I saw that happening, I was like, huh, that's really interesting. And so at that point, I had just these 3 because I hadn't gotten to Friday yet, and I saw what was happening visually, and I thought, okay, you really need to balance that out on the other side of the page, or it's potentially going to look very funny. And so by bringing it in, and I love the fact that I did it with a half box here instead of going for another third box, because that just feels very organically me and how I plan it, because I typically don't like to be super symmetrical unless it's something I'm doing intentionally, but realizing that visually that was going to add a lot of balance, and I love the way that came together. And it was just one of those things that sometimes taking a step back and taking in what's happening on the page as a whole, which is something I didn't always used to do, and has really become something that has developed as my planning style has continued to progress and develop, is sort of trying to take a step back, look at what's happening visually on the page as a whole, and take it in and try to find ways that create visual balance, because I end up liking the spreads more when I do. So then we get to our very last spread of the month of September, and this was a kit from the Pretty Pink Co. And this was a really interesting one because when I purchased this kit, it was actually like the end of May, and I purchased it initially with the thought of using this in summer, and I'm so glad I didn't use it in summer. And it was one of those situations where it just kept getting pushed back because as I was going through my the kits that I wanted to use as the weeks were coming up throughout the summer, this was just one of those kits where I kept looking at it and going, just trying to balance it out with my assortment, because one of the other things I like to do is try to, from week to week, have a shift in sort of, in addition to the foil color, but also try to shift, color-wise, what's the dominant color of the spread. Whereas we go from one that's, you've got a lot of lavenders and blacks and grays, and this one to very much pink and gray and white, to the peachy tones here, to this much bolder pinks with the raspberries tones and the greens in here. And so trying to find a good balance in the color assortment, the other kits that would work well around it, it just kept becoming a kit that just kept getting pushed further and further back. And I already had a kit in mind for what I wanted to use for the week that was going to be the first week of fall, which this is. And I remember when I pushed it back and gotten to the point where I was looking at it and going, okay, maybe I need to make a change of what I wanted to use for the kit for the first week of fall. And I'm so glad that I went with this one, because it just works. It was one of those things where it was just like this, it just came together so well. And honestly, I think if I'd used this earlier in the summer, I really would have hated this spread. I am one of my many idiosyncrasies. I'm super picky, and my planner spread can have a significant impact on my mood. And like I was saying earlier, it's something I like to have out and open, and something I enjoy looking at throughout the day. And so if it doesn't match and the vibe and the mood and the way that I'm feeling at that time, then it just feels off, and it throws me off, and I'm unhappy with it, and I just get way too about how I'm feeling about the spread. And so the timing of when I ended up using this was so perfect, because there are definitely just some of these darker toned colors with the raspberry and these florals that I think I underestimated when I was initially considering this for summer, because to me definitely is the perfect way to go into fall. And so A lot of fun elements here. Putting together this butterfly for the embellishment underneath, the month script at the top, that was a lot of fun, and that was definitely an element where I got a lot of inspiration, and I certainly don't want it to come across as though I come up with the inspiration for every single thing that goes into my planner all on my own. And that's what I love about scrolling through Instagram and through YouTube videos and watching Plan With Me. I get tons of inspiration from other planners. I just think it's, you know, naturally what happens in the community. We all feed off of each other. And I've been seeing people put together mandalas, the half mandala stickers, and that was what inspired me. I was like, I've got these half butterflies. It would be really cool to put them together and make a whole butterfly. And so I ended up going with that for the month. And then this embellishment down at the bottom here, where we've got the deco. I had a deco sheet from the Sweet Planner, which was the most perfect match to this kit. And I remember getting down to the bottom. I knew I had all the elements that I needed for my sidebar, and I was just needing to put down a decorative element at the bottom of the page. And initially, I was trying to fit the little fashion girl that came on the deco sheet down at the bottom of the page, and I knew I was going to have to cut her because she, as a whole sticker, was sitting on a cute little stool, which was so adorable, and I was sad that I was going to have to cut her in half because as a whole sticker, she was just incredibly adorable. But then I was like, okay, fine, we'll cut it down and try to make it fit in this space. And I was trying to find where she would fit and how it would work and what I'd need to layer around her, and it just wasn't working. And so I went back, looked at the deco sheet, saw the purse, and I was like, okay, that's gonna be the thing that actually works in that space. The sizing was right, and I placed it down and started layering the florals and then the coffee around it, and it just worked. And then it was so funny because I was looking at the girl and I'm like, dude, she's got her little laptop and her cell phone. That's like you at work every single day. You've got to use that in the spread and just make it a work icon. It's gonna be perfect. And so I was like, oh, deal, spot on, so perfect. And so it's like layer on top of a half box, cut it down to size, and it's just gonna work amazing. Definitely one of the biggest changes for me with this spread this week was the decision to line up my full boxes. I'd done that once with my full boxes. I think it might have been like 2018. I'd lined up all of my full boxes across the center and hated that spread. I hated it so much. It did not work for my style. I didn't like it. It felt like the whole balance of my spread was just totally thrown off. And so ever since then, I've stuck to just scattering my full boxes and staggering them because it just fits my personality a lot better. And so I knew making the decision to line them up was going to be something. It was a big deal. And so when I made that decision, I started lining them up. I knew the boxes that I wanted for these days, and then I was trying to pick out just sort of the placement so that you had ones that were like the flowers next to the butterflies, so that there was a balance in how they were from one box to the next. And I realized, well, maybe don't line all of them up. You don't have to do all 7. You do 5. And I was like, okay, that feels good. That feels like a little bit more like freedom and a little bit more like me. And so I remember having the idea to drop Sunday and Monday down to the bottom, and that made me feel so much more comfortable and not quite as confined by having them all lined up in a row. And so I think that's something that when I'm planning feeds into just my personality and feeling like I can sort of step outside the box. I don't like feeling confined when it comes to my planning, and I like trying things that are different. And so this was a challenge for me to have them all lined up and try to make a spread that still felt authentic and real to my personal planning style. This was a spread where I also had, there's just so much happening on this particular spread, guys. Sorry, I've got so much to say about this one. So in addition to that, I also went ahead and did something I'd been thinking about for a while with these lace lace trim stickers. I always want to call these dividers. They are lace trim stickers from Honey Inked. And that was born not just out of the desire to do this technique, which I'd been wanting to do for a while, but also out of not loving the headers that came with the kit. Her foiling on her headers is a little bit more spread out, and I tend to like it when the more of like the confetti look of foil headers, where it's tightly packed and lots of little dots of confetti all over the header, and hers is more spread out, and so you don't get that same visual impact. And I wasn't just totally in love with them, and so I knew, looking at the headers, I was like, I don't particularly want to use them. And so then I was going, okay, well, if you're not going to use them, what kind of headers are you going to pull into this, and what are you going to do? And then I thought, well, maybe don't do headers at all. And I love situations like that where I'm forced to try to do something different, and I feel like anytime I don't have just like everything I need, or something's kind of missing, or there's something where I have to try to work at it, it forces me to come up with a creative solution and forces me to try something different, which I always enjoy. And this time it worked out so well, because it ended up resulting in the lace trim at the top and the bottom. And it was so funny, because I was going, okay, well, we're going to do the lace trim at the top and the bottom. That's going to look amazing. And the first thing I did was I pulled out my sticker sheet and I started counting, because I knew I was going to need 14 of them. And I was like, oh God, I hope I have enough so that I can trim the top and the bottom. And I had 13 of them. And I was like, oh my God, I'm one short. And thankfully I had a sampler, the Gathered Plans freebie sampler from Honey Inked had one of the lace trim stickers on it. And I was so glad I had that sampler, and I actually had it because because Rachel, who's Gathered Plans, sent me that freebie. It was just such a great, such a great little saver for me. And I remember putting down the lace trim headers and just going, be as absolutely careful as you possibly can, peeling these stickers off of this sticker sheet and placing them down on the page, because you don't have a single one to spare. I had to make every single one of those lace trim stickers count, because I only had 14 of them in my stash. And I was like, every single one of these has to go down. It has to go down perfect. You can't mess this up, because you can't fix it. You don't even have one spare. And so that was a very fun moment, and I was so glad I was saved by that one lace trim sticker on that sampler. Otherwise, this would not have happened. And the other thing that I ended up doing, and definitely was so inspired by the fact that I did decide to line up my full boxes, going across this middle section here, I decided to do something that was very symmetrical, and taking Thursday as sort of my center point, which if you omit the sidebar, it's definitely the center point of your page. And I'd started doing it organically on this side of the page, and because it wasn't planned out until I got to the second half of the page, where I'd placed down the bow header, the Honey Ink divider, and this label sticker going across this part of the page where the columns are broken into your 3 sections for your rows. And typically I try to just omit the row concept as much as possible and just look at each column as one long column. But I did like this sort of through line that I had going here, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to just sort of mirror reflect that on the other side of the page? And so I went with the half box to mark my center point, and then just started mirroring what was happening, where I put down another one of the label stickers, another one of the Honey Ink dividers, and then another one of the bow headers from Netty Designs. And I really love visually what that does on the page. It's got this really nice symmetrical sort of center through line going through that part of the page, which I really enjoyed. The other thing I really love about this page, and this was so fun, with these Honey Ink pen flourishes. One of my favorite dividers, decorative elements to use on the page. I adore this pen flourish so very much. And I decided to cut it in half, and it totally changed how I looked at it as soon as I cut it. And then I thought, well, what if you put it on the page vertically instead of horizontally? And it was like one of those eureka moments. And loved how it looked, loved the different layering opportunities it presented, and the opportunities to do something just different on the page. And it gave me something, sort of a new way to use a sticker I'd already been using and already been loving, and which I think is so fun. And I think sometimes with just a pair of scissors and a sticker, you can totally do something very different, very unique, and really find ways to express yourself with things you already have in your stash. And I think that's the fun thing about planning. We have so many stickers at our disposal, and sometimes it's just finding a different way to look at what you already have, whether it's flipping it vertically rather than having it horizontal, or flipping it horizontal rather than having it vertically, or taking a flourish and turning it upside down, or taking a half sticker and putting it together and making it a whole. Sometimes the simplest little details of changing one little thing about how we've been used to using a sticker could totally transform the way we then incorporate that sticker into our spreads. And that was certainly the case for me with this sticker. I had never considered cutting that sticker before, and the moment I did, it just opened up so many new possibilities and options for this particular sticker, and that was a lot of fun for me with this spread. So many things I love about this. It definitely is my favorite spread of the month. There were so many elements as I've gone over. I had so much inspiration, and it's one of those things that for me as a planner, I personally live for. Putting a spread on the page that excites me and that kind of blows me away. It's like the thing I hope for when I sit down to plan, that I'm going to do something that's just so amazing, either a technique or put down an element, or there'll be one little focal point or an entire spread, which just almost never happens, that just blows me away. And it's like, you know, what you continue to plan for and what you keep coming back for, to the hope that you're going to do something that just creates that level of excitement that this was just so amazing. Oh my gosh. Oh, I loved it. And this was just one of those spreads for me, and I didn't see it coming at all. And that's always the best thing, when it just surprises you. Just like, it was like, it just kept going. It just kept getting better. It just kept becoming something that just worked. Everything came together for this spread so well for me, and it just was amazed and blown away and so happy with it. And it was definitely my favorite spread of the month. So that is it. We've come to the end of our September section. Thank you all for taking this flip through with me. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you guys did enjoy it, let me know in the comments, and we can go forward and continue to do flip throughs as I get to the end of the month, and I can share with you guys sort of what my inspiration was, the thought process that went into making the spreads, and how this works out for me, and you guys can enjoy more of the sort of behind the scenes of my planning process. So again, I hope you all are having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next video. Bye.